तो बस चलिए फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया के साथ ये फर्क मिटा देते हैं। फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया।
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this webinar called Start Your Own Franchise Business, presented by Franchise India. If you have ever thought about starting your own business, but you didn't know where to begin with, which business to choose, and how to reduce the risk, then you are absolutely at the right place right now. Because we do this webinar on every Thursday at 11 in the morning with a clear objective to help you understand the key aspects of franchising, the important point you must consider while selecting the right franchise, identify the right business opportunity, and make informed investment decision with clarity and confidence. So whether you are an aspiring entrepreneur planning to start your first business, a working professional looking to build an additional income stream, or an existing business owner aiming to diversify, this session is designed to give you practical insight, real opportunities, and the clarity you need to move forward with confidence. Hi everyone, my name is Bharat and I'm joined by Ms. Sonia Chaudhary. She's the Managing Director of Franchise India, who will be sharing her valuable insight and interacting with you during this session. But before we begin, just a quick one that this is going to be an interactive session. So if you have any question, feel free to drop into them in the Q&A box anytime, and we will make sure that we address them during the webinar. Also, in case if possible, you all can share your name, the city you have joined from, and the type of business you are interested in. It really helps us tailor this session for you. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. Let's get started and explore the journey into the entrepreneurship. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Bharat. And friends, a very good morning to all of you. I welcome you again on today's webinar. And like Bharat said, this is a webinar which has been curated for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to start a business. And so just to set the perspective, I'll give a little understanding on the flow of the webinar. We'll talk about the industry of franchising at large. I would also like to give you a little understanding about Franchise India and our journey in the last more than 2.5 decades. And most importantly, we'll talk about the assessment tools which a business or a aspiring entrepreneur must undertake before starting a business. And the process, the methodology that you would see that we'll take you through is something which has been tried and tested by us for the last 28 years. So friends, today what we're doing is we are witnessing a very powerful shift in the overall landscape of business. And today is the era of democratization of entrepreneurship, which means the access of business, making entrepreneurship accessible to everyone. That has been the mission of Franchise India ever since we started in 1999. We have been working with entrepreneurs to help them and guide them to start a business. So this webinar will give you guided assistance on how to start your own business. Today, more and more entrepreneurs, investors are shifting toward business ownership through franchising. And the reason is because franchising allows you to invest in a proven business model and an opportunity, a brand that has already been marketed or has an acceptance in the market. So as an investor, as an entrepreneur, you're not experimenting, you are executing something which is proven, and the company gives you, the brand gives you the entire guidance, systems and processes to run a business. So the webinar is about a very important decision of your lifetime. And this is a decision which I know we don't take many times in a life, which is a decision to start your own business. And at Franchise India, we understand that a business buyer is looking at a lot of insights, a lot of analysis, diagnostic before starting a business. And that is not limited to just a product information on the opportunity. And buying a business is one of the most difficult decisions of a lifetime. And we always submit that it requires a thorough research, understanding of various dimensions, nuances, which can help you as a business owner become successful in the business venture, the brand that you have taken. So it is very important that you invest a lot of time to understand the overall opportunity, and study that opportunity enough. And this was the reason, the grounds for us to start these Advantage series sessions. So at Franchise India, today we run our business in more than 97 cities across India, and we are also present in 19 countries globally. Over the last 28 years, we have worked with more than 1 million investors, where our teams, our advisors have worked directly and we have guided them through this decision to start a business. And since investor centricity has been the focus and the purpose of Franchise India, we work with you to bring solutions that are based on the methodology that we have followed throughout the years, which is based on the appropriate fitment of opportunity, based on your profile, based on the investment, based on the market that you want to take a or start a business, and which blends together all these aspects to help you take an informed decision to start a business. So, as a prime mover, we have, in fact, built a very strong equity with a large community of our business buyers, entrepreneurs like you, who engaged through various platforms of Franchise India before taking a decision to start a business. And being at the forefront of the industry, Franchise India, has been sensing, analyzing a lot of trends much before anyone can see. So the opportunity in franchising, friends, if you're looking to start a business, there are only three ways one can look at starting a business. One is your own startup, where you can start your own venture, which is your own business venture. The second is taking up something, or I would say, buying something from somebody. It is a resale of business, existing business that you take over and run yourself. And the third is you buy a tried and tested business, which is called franchising. So how big is the industry in franchising is also very important to understand, because any given point in time that we want to start something, it is very crucial to understand how big the opportunity is and the relevance of that opportunity in the times to come. So, franchising today has become very, very big. India today is the largest market with a powerhouse of consumption. And for franchising, it means it needs a collaboration of credible and responsible franchisors, brands on one side, and equally, I would say partners, franchisees who come forward to make this ecosystem sustainable. And today we are sitting at I would say, one of the best opportune times where the entire globe is looking to or looking up to India. And the next big investment opportunity for the world is India. And the current economic fundamentals also signal the market enormous potential. India is today, like I said, a powerhouse in the globalized world. So franchising today is a very big impact market. And the reason is because everything, all of us as consumers, what we are consuming, all our services, all our products, these are all coming from franchise businesses. So because franchising cuts across every single industry. And we all would agree, we have seen successful franchise companies across all sectors, all industries, whether that's product or service industry, from our daily consumption, which is dairy, brands like Amul, Safal, these are all companies which are franchising, to even services that we consume from platforms like Zepto or Blinkit. These are all companies which are franchising, to even the five-star hotel, hospitality, hospitals, K-12, where a school, I would say preschools and K-12 schools are opening up. These are all companies today which are using franchising in order to expand. So in globally, in terms of the overall system sales, the franchise industry globally contributes 5 trillion to the economy of the world. And India today is one of the fastest economy, when I say in franchising, after America. And we are today the second largest franchise market in the world after America. And the next 10 years, in fact, we are going to witness a 10x growth in franchising. The last 10 years has been 4 to 5x growth in franchising, because the fundamentals in franchising looks very, very great. Today, 70% of our consumption is coming from domestic consumption. And consumption story of India has been very, very strong for the last many, many decades. And not only the consumption story is strong, the way that Indian consumers are consuming has also changed, which means our consumption cycles are also changing. We are consuming more of what we are consuming maybe 5 or 10 years back. And franchising is directly proportionate to consumption. To give an example of most of the consumer categories that we are consuming today, 30 years back, what we consumed, today we are consuming 4 times higher than what we consumed in maybe mid 90s. Even industries like as simple as paint, Asian Paints did a survey and they found out India today is painting more homes. So once in 4 years now, than once in 7 years, what it used to do 15 years back. So the consumption cycles are improving, while as an economy, as a country, we are still comparatively low in terms of per capita consumption in many categories, but that has seen a big improvement in the last 5 years alone. The second area is formalization of consumption, which means that today our consumption has become more and more organized. As consumers, our awareness on the brands and demand for branded products and services has become much higher. So, India today is a 3.2 trillion economy. And also, what we are seeing is the next 5 years, we would double up our economy in terms of our overall consumption, and franchising is directly proportionate to consumption. The second area that we see, which is driving this, is the youth-driven demand. With India's population, about 65% of population is under 35, which is also giving shape to a lot of new age businesses and new categories, which are becoming very, very big, including categories like health, lifestyle, fitness, gym, I would say, beauty, and a lot of businesses which are experience led. So when I say food, from services which are direct to home, where we order these services, to even QSR, casual diners, global brands. So all that is giving a very big fillip to overall franchise business. So that is one. The other area, friends, which I also want to highlight today, when we started in 1999, we also saw the consumer group, largely that was the buyer group in terms of our franchise target audience. That was largely people who were coming with experience of either running a franchise business or a business at large. Sort of 100 businesses in franchising that were taken by investors, entrepreneurs. Only 10% of that community came as a first time business buyer. So that community back there in 1999 was very, very small. 90% businesses were taken by investors who came from business families, had experience of running a business. What we have seen in these many years, a very big significant shift in the growth of first-time entrepreneurs. Today, out of every 100 businesses which are awarded, which are taken, including global brands entering India and Indian companies expanding, 65% of that business is taken by first-time entrepreneurs who have no experience relatively of running a business. So this community in India has become very, very big. And also I would say the overall, the age group, the cohort has also changed. So today, our larger group of business buyers come in the age group of 25 to 35 years of age. Another reason why franchising is becoming more and more, I would say, powerful, because India as a country has a dearth of job opportunities and lack of high paying job opportunities beyond tier one cities, which is another reason why franchising gets a very big push. So even if you look at the startup ecosystem today, in the last 5 years, almost 49% of the startups have come from tier two and three cities, which also is a big validation of the spirit and the potential of entrepreneurship, which sits in, tier two and three cities. So what we'll do, friends, we'll take you through a small and a quick next 20 minutes an assessment structure. How do you assess to start a business? And this is something that we have been following for the last 28 years. And when you work with us and take our guided assistance, every single advisor at Franchise India across our cities in India and global markets, we follow this tried and tested methodology that we've been doing for the last 2.5 decades. So there are five largely assessment tools which are critical, I would say, for any business buyer to consider before starting a business. And these assessment tools include your own, I would say, starting with your own self-assessment. Second is the industry that you want to get in. So how do you select the industry? What is the analysis that you must do on the industry? Third is the market assessment. When I say market assessment, this is the micro market where you want to open. So if you're looking at Pune, which is a market where you want to open, look at the competition which is around. So we also do a peer assessment, which is a competition assessment in the market. And finally, the assessment of the brand that you want to select and go ahead with. So these are largely five assessment tools. And under these five assessment tools, we have also gone deeper to understand, analyze important points that are critical to be looked at. And we have created a 25-point criteria. So when you look at these assessment tools, if your overall score on these 25 points is 20 plus, then the category, the market, the industry assessment which has been done is great. Go ahead and sign the opportunity. If your overall score is 15 to 20, it is still good enough to or decent enough to move ahead. But if your overall score on these 25 points is less than 15, then we do not advise you to go ahead with that opportunity. In fact, we go back, analyze the assessment, do that again. It can be a combination of one, two, or three of these assessment tools. So I'll quickly run you through these 25 points. So I personally feel, and that is what, because working with many entrepreneurs in the last 2.5 decades, I've understood starting a business is something which is the most difficult decision. It is not easy. And even when you select an opportunity, building a successful one is even a bigger challenge. And this becomes even more challenging when you're investing in a business for the first time as a first time entrepreneur. And successful investment is all about three things, and which I call a CAP, which is a security cap, which is clarity, which is C stands for clarity, A stands for alignment of your goals, and P stands for the preparation that you need to start a business. So for the first time business buyers, the journey especially is filled with a lot of questions, uncertainties, and the need for informed decision making, hence, is comparatively much higher than somebody who has an experience of starting a business. And I always feel starting a business is not just a transaction, it is a transformative experience that brings new learning, challenges, and opportunities. So the first area that we always focus on is the self-assessment, which I always believe is the foundation or the first step to selection of an opportunity. And the business is only as strong as your own clarity, like I said, and self-assessment is the most valuable tool for any aspiring entrepreneur. So we need to be extremely honest as we go to discover these opportunities. Define as an individual your strength, your weakness when you assess yourself. And the key areas we need to look at is your own time commitment that you have to do in the business. So how many number of hours you can commit to the business. Because 95% and more businesses require somebody to put a substantial time to run and operate the business. Having said that, there are opportunities where the company can run the operations and you can just be a passive investor. But largely these investment opportunities come with a very high investment. And these opportunities are comparatively more complex to manage. And that is the reason companies only need the financial fitment and they take care of the entire operational involvement, which can be K-12 schools or a super specialty hospital or a five-star hotel, so to say. So these are largely opportunities where the companies look at somebody who can bring in the investment and the brand brings in their operational capability. So you need to understand what is the time commitment you have to do in the business. We call somebody as an operator partner who has minimum of 3 hours to devote every single day. Now, the ratio of your time commitment in the business becomes different depending on the category industry that you choose. So if you choose a knowledge-based industry, which means if you want to get into a coaching business, which is skill development, coaching, business coaching, or executive coaching, your time commitment is 100% because this business will give you return on the time that you would put in the venture. The second area is to also understand what kind of capital that you want to bring in the business and what is the ratio of debt and equity, which means how much equity you have, which is your own personal saving that you want to put in the business, and what is the kind of debt that you want to take. So largely between these two, the planning is very important. The thumb rule again that we follow is 50-50, which means 50% of your own equity you bring in the business and 50% debt. But if your overall investment is less than 35-40 lakhs, I personally feel we need to bring in a higher quantum of your own I would funded business. At least 70% of the investment should be funded by you and 30 can be a softer loan that can be taken because these ventures, especially smaller investment, if you take a higher quantum of say debt, the cost of capital becomes very high, which also makes your overall operational expenses unsustainable. And then comes a very important area now, which is the financial goal and your life goals has to correlate. And here we follow three things. You need to understand what is the kind of time that you want to achieve your financial goal, the timeline for you to achieve the financial goal. Second is the risk as a entrepreneur you're willing to take in the investment venture. And third is the return that you expect on the business. Now, all these three things together will help you define the return on the investment. So different asset classes, irrespective whether these are active businesses like franchising or passive investments, which you do in maybe property, real estate, the stock market. Every asset class that you invest in, we invest with only three fundamental goals, which is safety. We want to secure our money. Second is we want to generate income from the investment. And third is we're looking at high growth businesses. So based on the risk that you're willing to take, because safety would mean that you're averse to risk. So, so based on the risk that you're willing to take, your returns on the business venture are also very, very proportionate. So lower risk would mean lower returns on the investment. High risk means high return on the investment. And moderate risk when you take on a business are typically businesses which give you moderate return. So when I talk about franchising, typically franchising is comparatively a low risk business. The type of returns that you can expect, I would say, is from mid to high return, depending on the opportunity, the industry that you consider. And then comes the industry assessment. So this is very, very important because not every performing industry might be right for you as an entrepreneur. We need to conduct a deep research in selecting the sector which is right for you, which is based on your profile. It is based on the experience, one. And second, we also need to see the trends in the industry, the life cycle of the industry, whether that is an emerging industry, is it at a growing stage, is it at a scale stage? So what stage is the industry currently standing at? And what is the future fitment of that industry? Because any investment that we do, we need to see the long-term relevance of the opportunity. And then comes the overall growth prospects, where we also analyze the demand and supply gap in the market. So we need to assess whether the over market demand outpaces the supply. If that is the case, what we are doing is we're creating an opportunity. But if there are already a lot of players in the market in that particular category, it creates a margin pressure unless the opportunity that I bring in has a differentiator in the market and is able to and has the capacity to convert the existing consumer base to the opportunity that you bring in. So that is extremely important. Then comes the assessment of the market, which means go to market with a lot of intelligence. We need to see the real demand we need to see the competition in the market. We also need to see what is the unique value proposition that is being brought to the market, and is that something which is solving the real problem of the consumer base in the market. So we need to look at the overall total opportunity market size. I need to look at also how my consumer behavior is. And the two important elements, which is the regulatory landscape, which means the licenses, compliances that I need to start that business. And because these compliances, regulations are both a center and a state subject. So what these state guidelines talk about that industry, it can be a pharmacy or a drug license policy or a liquor policy, starting up a restaurant. So that is very important to be understood. And that is what our teams also guide you on that. And then comes a real estate strategy, because every business has a location it performs better. So again, the rule that we follow and that we advise, so whatever brand that you have selected, look at the nearest competition of that brand in your market. So if you're looking at a cafe to start off with, or a gym to start off with, or a salon to start off with, or a fashion brand to start off with, look at the top, I would say 3 to 4 competition, which is already operating in the market. They might be operating in multiple markets in your city. But look at these locations and understand which are the top locations where the revenue, their per square feet efficiency, and their performance is best. So if you're able to secure a location next to them, your potential to become successful in the venture is very high. I'll give you some examples. These are some of the investments. In fact, Franchise India has a master franchise portfolio. We also own about 70 global brands where we own the master franchise rights of these companies in markets including India and also subcontinent Middle East. So we just recently opened one of our locations in Delhi, and this is a brand called Coffee Shop Company, which is a brand from Austria, one of the largest F&B conglomerates in that part of the market. And the location that we chose in Delhi is a place called Club Road. So people who are familiar with Delhi and that location would know that is one of the most prime location. It took us time to get that location, but the location that we are in is next to all the top competition that we see in the market, with the likes of Starbucks, with the likes of Tim Hortons, Third Wave Coffee. So all these are just next to them, because you already have an audience which the market attracts, and it is easy for you to fit in, provided you also have a compelling proposition for the customer base that comes there. So that is what we do. And then comes the competition assessment. We need to look at the advantage that I have over the brand, which includes couple of things that you need to analyze. One is we need to see the overall penetration of the brand, how the brand has performed in different markets over a period of time. Because even in the same city, different locations would perform very differently depending on the real estate, depending on the format. So understand the penetration of the company, the performance of the brand over different seasons in different markets. And we need to look at also the offering and the differentiation that the brand that you have selected is bringing in. Now, this offering and differentiation can be in the overall pricing strategy. It can be overall service. It can be technology, or maybe the overall, I would say, performance of your brand. So, what differentiation do I bring in when I enter a new market is very important to be understood, because it is only the differentiation that attracts consumer to your brand. Uh, and that's very, very crucial, because every market would have consumers that are already consuming those services or products. So when you open your brand in that market, there has to be compelling proposition for these customers to convert to the opportunity that you have opened up. Finally comes the assessment of the brand. I always say not all franchise businesses are same. So as an investor, as an entrepreneur, as a franchisee, you have to conduct your research to know everything you need to about the business at large. And one has to go extremely deep to understand the brand. So, and that I always say, before even going into the financials of the business model, we need to, like we talked about, industry is something we understand. We need to look at the people who are behind the business, the leadership, the management of the company, stakeholders are very, very important. Maybe what their pedigree is very important to be understood. The legacy of the brand, and how committed they are to their partners and overall community which they're servicing. Second is we need to ensure that the company has their entire systems and processes systemized and standardized, because as the company and the brand starts growing, they have to become more and more process oriented, because only when there is a process which is defined, you as a franchise partner, as an entrepreneur, can bring in operational efficiency. And when you do that, it reduces deviation. It becomes easy for you to replicate your business and perfect the customer service. And then comes the operating cost. When I say operating cost and margins, go a little deeper to understand the unit economics of the business. When I say unit economics, which means what is the per square feet efficiency we can expect, what is the rent to sale ratio we can expect, and every industry has a science. So if I talk about food as a industry, if I have a rental, for example, of 1 lakh rupees at a given location, and I'm looking at a sales potential, if I cannot do 5 times of that, my business will not survive. So similarly, every industry has a sales to or a rent to sales ratio. So if that market has a higher rental, we need to analyze if it also has a potential to bring in higher or at least 5 times of sales. Second is my margin understanding. Every industry has different margins. Having said that, even every category in that industry would work on different margins, right? So maybe retail business, jewelry would operate on different margins. Even in jewelry, the gold margins are very different. And even in gold also, different SKUs that are there would have different margin structure. So understand what margins are there in the business. And when you do that, always do an apple to apple comparison. And then comes the legal terms in the agreement. So in India, we follow the British contract, which is contract law. So everything that becomes a part of the contract becomes binding between both the partners. And the most important part of the legal contract is to understand what your exit terms are if you want to exit, and what is the conflict resolution the company is offering. So these are areas that you need to do. And I would say this is assessment of the company, and the entire structuring of the deal takes the maximum time to closing a deal. So at Franchise India, what we do, we have a 3-stage advisory process that we follow, which is stage 1, which we call as the stage of exploration and information stage, where we understand your profile as a business owner. We understand your strength. We do the complete assessment, which I talked about, the 5 areas. And we do the 4 primary fitments, which includes your own strategic fitment, which means what, as an investor, as a business owner, you bring to the business outside the capital, capital, because that's very important to understand your interest, your experience. It can be education qualification that you have. So all that together, or the location, the property that you own, together makes a fitment of a strategic fitment. Second comes the operational time that you have to put in the business. What number of hours can you devote to the business? Third is a market fitment, which means looking at the market where you want to open, what opportunities we think can sustain in the market, where we also do a competition assessment. And finally comes the financial fitment, which is a combination of both working capital and the investment that you want to do. So that becomes our first stage, where we take a lot of time to understand these four primary fitments. Once that is done and analyzed by our teams, then we go to stage two, which is we go and select and curate opportunities that fit in these four primary fitments. And we actually dive deeper into these selected opportunities. Our teams share with you the entire deck, explain you the financial business model, unit economics. And once you have done that and select from those opportunities, then the next step is to get discovery days with the companies, which includes in-depth brand sessions, which largely, I would say, are physical sessions, including a visit to the outlet, the center of the brand. And once that is completed, it can be series. You can go and do a lot of discovery days and sessions with multiple companies. And once you've selected the brand, we come on the final stage, which is a stage of personalization. Here, customization of deal is done. We work with you to structure the entire deal, help you sign the LOI, and finally the agreement. So at Franchise India, we are a company. We work with serious investors, entrepreneurs who respect our time, and we specialize in helping entrepreneurs to take an informed, confident decision. One thing which I would say is, we help you and equip you with all information that is important for you to take a decision. But I, as an investor, as an advisor, I would not push you to a certain opportunity. The decision lies with you, but to help you, to equip you to take that decision, something that our responsibility is. So our process is designed to support you end to end, from discovering these opportunities suitable to your profile, to the market, to the investment you want to do, followed by evaluation, negotiation, and finally signing off the agreement. So this is a very high involvement process. Typically, for anyone who wants to start a business, this entire process can take anything from 30 to 60 days on an average. But and depending on the complexity or the value of the deal, it can even take about 4 to 5 months. There are some opportunities that we have worked with some global brands, finding them a master for India, which has taken almost 4 to 5 months, because it takes a long time to complete the process. So in order to maintain the quality and the effectiveness of our work, we only engage with our serious registered investors. So friends, this is what I had to share with you. I would also like to inform you, I have a show which is happening in Bangalore today. This is a retail show which is happening at Sheraton in Bangalore between today and tomorrow. We have a lot of global companies which have come in representing. I have some local high-end companies which are participating in the show. So if you want to visit that event, let us know. We'll help you. And if you're from Bangalore, we can share the details. And on this weekend, I have another show which is happening in Ahmedabad. And on Sunday, I have a show which is happening in Mumbai. Now, these are events which Franchise India conducts for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, where you can go meet the decision makers and the brands directly. You will also find our teams of Franchise India who can also meet with you. So if you want to attend any of our events in your cities, so every month I conduct about 15 odd events. Every weekend there are about 3 events minimum that are conducted, where we come to your city, our brands visit you, my local teams are there who also work with you. So if you're keen to attend any of our events, please let us know. And every day we also bring you one fresh opportunity which is coming or being launched in franchising for the very first time. And these sessions we conduct so that we can educate all our, I would say, investor community on different opportunities that come to the market. So even that industry is not something that might interest you, I would still urge that go and attend these sessions, because these sessions make you more intelligent to ask the right questions and understand different models that come in. So I'll request Bharat if you put that in the chat box. So there's a link, friends, that you can click on. It'll take you a few seconds to register yourself. And today we have a brand called Vekunt. This is a company from Indore. They're looking to expand in a lot of locations across India. So this is a budget hostel, and they're looking to expand largely in tourist spots and religious locations. So we have the leadership of the company which is coming and presenting the entire partnership opportunity. So if you want to attend, you can go on the link and quickly register yourself. So thank you so much, friends, for being with us today. I wish you a great day ahead. If you want to reach out to us for any specific industry, you want to visit any of our shows, or you want to subscribe to various webinars that we conduct, you can reach on the hotline number on the email ID. One of our advisors would get in touch with you. We'll be happy to also fix one-to-one meetings with you to brainstorm opportunities based on your profile. So thank you so much. Bharat, over to you.
Right. Thanks so much, ma'am, for the detailed presentation about investor acquisition. So this is what we do every day, every Thursday at 11 in the morning. Of course, the business is a very important thing, one of the very important decisions of your life. You would, of course, like to take an informed decision. And just to help you with that, we Franchise India is always there for you. So if you want, any one of you would like to get in touch with us, you can call on those numbers, which I have shared in the chat box, 9717683838. Or you can also write to us at feedback@franchiseindia.in. So that's it for the day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. See you next week once again. Till then, take care.